Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Live, a weekly live stream and podcast currently focused on Marvel's WandaVision series, which is available to stream on Disney+. In today's episode, we're going to have a spoiler-filled discussion around episode 5 on a very special episode. So we're going to be talking spoilers for that, as well as other elements of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm Keith Isles, filmmaker, actor, and YouTuber, and I'm joined by a panel of superheroes from both sides of the Atlantic. So first joining us, our Marvel Comics specialist, Barbara Mealy.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Barbara.
Hi, Keith. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Really well, thanks.
Excited?
Very excited.
Very excited. Lots, as always, to delve into.
Yeah, it was a big episode.
It was a big episode indeed. So next up on the panel, I've got artist and film enthusiast Ryan Holloway.
Hello.
Hello, Ryan.
Hello. How are you doing?
Yes. How are you today?
I'm good. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to delving in.
Indeed. So we've got our 3 Avengers. So what we really need is no Avengers team is complete without a Hulk, right? So I'm pleased to welcome producer and podcaster Pete Mealy. Hey, Pete.
I knew you guys didn't like me when I was angry.
No, I like it. I like it when you're a rage podcaster.
Indeed. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah. Well, for anybody already viewing the stream out there, we obviously encourage you to get involved in the chat. If you've got any questions, comments, or anything you want us to read out, please put that in the chat and we will do so. And also, while you're here, please do like this video, consider subscribing to the channel, and get involved. That would be fantastic. We're going to be doing one of these every week now until the conclusion of the series. So we'd like as many of you to get involved as possible. And we have got other things planned for towards the end of the season. We're going to be doing some giveaways on the channel where you can win some Marvel related stuff. And please share and spread the word on social media and let everybody know, because this is available as a podcast as well at LSWOT cast. So please do like, subscribe, share, and all of that good stuff. So on that note, it's time to have a look at a brief synopsis of this week's episode. There was an idea.
Hello. So episode 5, here we go. So this week sees the action or comedy shift to the 80s. Vision and Wanda are trying to get their twin boys, Tommy and Billy, to stop crying. When Agnes offers her help, she concerns Vision when she seemingly breaks character. Vision grows increasingly concerned about Wanda's behavior when she almost reveals her abilities to Agnes later on. Meanwhile, the twins find a stray dog, who then affectionately gets called Sparky. The boys are then age up to 10 years and seem more aware of their mother's abilities. When Sparky eats from Agnes's garden, he dies, and the boys beg their mother to bring him back, knowing about her power. Vision's growing concern leads him to break through to the mind of a Westview resident who reveals the pain the mind control is causing him. SWORD sends in a drone to kill Wanda, but after the assassination attempt fails, Wanda emerges from the static field and warns Hayward and the rest of SWORD to stay away. Vision later confronts Wanda about her actions, but they are interrupted by the visit of Wanda's brother, Pietro, who Darcy observes has been recast.
Yes, which we will definitely dig into later. But first, we're going to have a quick look at Who Did This to You, Wanda, which is our production credits for this week. So this week's episode was written by Peter Cameron and Mackenzie Doer. Looking at their previous credits, Peter's credits involve Delusion Lies Within TV series, Carnival Row TV series, and The Magic Order, where serving as executive producer as well as writer, and then of course part of the writing staff now on WandaVision. And Mackenzie's credits include the Mindy Project and the TV series Lock and Key as writer and producer on that. And somebody else I wanted to credit this week, because I think music is always important in any film or television drama. And the music for this series is provided by Christoph Beck, who has, some 151 credits to his name, worked on all sorts of genres and types of film, dating sort of way back to the early 90s. Started off with the TV series White Fang in 1993, and has done things such as George and Leo, FX the series, don't know whether you remember that one, Spy Game TV series, Angel, The Practice, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Daybreak. I wanted to say Prison Break. That's just me. The Hangover Part 2, R.I.P.D. I don't know whether you remember that film. Frozen. He did the original score for that, and of course has been involved in Marvel as well with the scores for Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. So lots of credits there to the name before getting involved in WandaVision.
Yeah,
so
he's doing all right, isn't he? He's doing all right.
That's WandaVision, not WandaVision, in case somebody misheard me when I was talking about music.
Talking about some boy band that we don't know
There
about.
There you go. So so this week, for a little bit of a change, we've decided to merge our next two sections, which are You Need to Keep Both Eyes Open and On Your Left, which are basically our connections to the comics, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and any other film or television references. So Barbara, over to you.
Hello.
Hello.
So, first of all, this episode had lots of nods to the MCU, and also the events that are going on are a little bit close to the comics, but telling it in their own way, which I think is going to set things up for the rest of the MCU shows and movies that are supposed to be coming up in the next year or two. So one of those things is the arrival of the children, the twins. In the comics, Wanda and Vision do have twin boys, and they say that Wanda actually manifested the children herself because her desire to have a life and a family with Vision was so strong. But in the comics, there's been a couple different sort of explanations, but the predominant one is that Mephisto, who's like Satan essentially, and also a warlock, manipulates her powers to create the children, and so just so that he can eventually take them back and augment his own power. But I think that's a little bit of an out there theory or event to put into like a mainstream pop culture show. So I do think Mephisto is going to be around in the show because he could be a potential villain in the Loki series in particular. The other possibility, not that part yet, but other nods to the comics, they adopt the dog, which the like no perfect family is complete without a dog. And in the comics, the dog's name is Sparky. So that was a cute little nod to see in the show. And I'm trying to make sure I don't get into like the theory part of our discussion.
Yeah, so it's always tricky, that one, isn't it? I mess that up nearly every time. So yeah,
because I'm just so excited to get into like, what does this mean? But the other big part of that like sort of connects back to the comics is we see Wanda's control slipping in different ways in this episode. Like she can't influence the boys. I think she cleans up a mess in the kitchen and Agnes is in the kitchen. So, right, Vision gets a little upset. So stuff like that. In any series of the comics, Wanda eventually does have like a mental break. And so she either warps reality or the death of the boys, the death of Vision is revealed to her and she, goes full on mental villain. But either way that they decide to get into that in the show, if they are going to have that happen, in the comics, that's what triggers this series I mentioned before called House of M, where Wanda pulls everybody into an idyllic world where mutants are normal and they can coexist with humans. There's no strife. And she actually basically recasts herself so that she doesn't have powers. So she can just be normal and be like a happy mom and wife. So,
right.
Yeah, they're tying it in a little bit, but, retelling it, I think, so that the show can carry and connect to the next pieces of the MCU.
Cool. Mm-hmm. That's quite a lot there. Any others? Pete, anything from you?
I didn't notice much, but I think the big thing I noticed was that when Wanda exits the town, it's the first time I think we see her in her Avengers Endgame or Avengers Infinity War outfit, and she's speaking in her full accent, which we haven't gotten a lot of. So that was the big one that I noticed, is that she's back to sort of a MCU style in this just for a minute. And then there is, like Ryan mentioned, Pietro, who's a character, and I guess now we get to cross the streams a little bit because he's been in the X-Men movies as well, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, we sort of hypothesized on this in our first episode, didn't we? I've got a few things about that, but that's probably in the theories section, so I won't say any more on that at the moment. But yeah, okay. Any other bits and pieces?
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention as well that Agnes coming in to like get the babies to stop crying could also be a little bit of a nod to the comics, because she in the comics, the timing, like the chronology is kind of funny to try to keep in mind with the MCU stuff. But in the comics, she like survives, hides her true identity as a witch from like Salem in the 1600s by acting as a nanny. And she is a Reed Richards nanny of the Fantastic Four. So that's kind of like a funny little thing also, like maybe, it's another hint that MCU is going to recast or bring together the Fox material. So that one's kind of fun.
No, absolutely. A couple of things I noticed, in terms of references, they obviously mentioned the Lagos incident, which of course happened in Captain America's Civil War. They mentioned Captain Marvel and they mentioned Thanos. So things that, as Pete rightly pointed out, they also brought back a Sokovian accent for when she was breaking character. So that was pretty cool. And then, of course, in terms of referencing other things, you see, I did get this one. Was the beginning credits and whatever, and the set that it's based on was very much Family Ties. Definitely that sort of canvas painting thing at the beginning was with a sort of duet song was almost sort of spot on with Family Ties. So which is a sitcom reference that I kind of get more than the previous ones they've had. So and they mentioned obviously the Sokovia Accords as well, which was set up in Civil War. I think that's it in terms of not going into sort of theories and speculation.
I was quite interested about the Captain Marvel part, because I think Captain Marvel was mentioned by Darcy, and Monica kind of brushed it off in an angry, we don't talk about her kind of a way. So I thought there was obviously there's something going on there. I would guess that, Captain Marvel disappearing for a really long period of time, and probably when her mother was sick, I'm going to guess. I guess there's a story to be told there about her being upset about Captain Marvel's absence, which I thought was quite interesting.
Sure. Well, should we move on then to I Could Do This All Day, which is where we theorize and talk about stuff that we think might be happening or might be going on. What do you think?
Yes, please.
Hello to Derek McManus, by the way, who's commented here that Captain Marvel is the bestest ever. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I'm not. The way he's written that, I'm not so sure that's necessarily a compliment.
I see. Hang on. Let's check this out.
Did he write Eva in all caps? Oh no.
Yeah, best is ever.
Well, I still think she's the best. Well, I could digress. I'm not going to. This isn't about Captain Marvel.
No, and clearly they didn't want to talk about Captain Marvel. No. So yeah, I agree with you.
I did wonder whether that was a nod to the fact that there is a massive part of the fan base that doesn't like her. Whether that was a kind of a, making them feel better. Oh, we don't talk about Captain Marvel.
Who knows? I think, like you said, there's probably a better story there that hopefully will come on.
Well, Captain Marvel 2, I imagine. But anyway, that's a prediction about film.
Indeed. Indeed. Did any of you notice, by the way, something, we talk about how this show has become very meta, very aware of itself. And when we had the recap, there was actually, I don't know whether you've noticed, but they used an alternative take of Wanda's response as to where, what Monica Rambeau, Monica Rambeau was, who was the character she was posing as in the in their reality? I've forgotten what it is now. But when she said she had to leave, Geraldine, yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember the name. When she said she had to leave, we saw a very different take in the recap to how it was in the episode.
Yeah,
which I think is quite interesting in itself. That fourth wall constantly breaking within this show. Did anybody else notice that?
I do like the fact that Wanda's, with everything else that's going on, she's thinking, right, well, there should be a camera there. Like, she's actually thinking about, she's having to create these sitcoms and go, right, well, where would the lighting be? It's good that she's thinking about the mise en scène of each episode.
Exactly. And I mean these to credit the filmmakers and the creative team here, I mean these episodes are just so layered, aren't they? It's unbelievable. And timescale wise, period wise on this, obviously, as we know, it's sort of supposed to be the 80s, but I don't know whether you felt, I felt it was kind of 80s stroke 90s. Did you get that feeling?
Yeah, no, it definitely
I
felt
don't
kind
know.
of
I
late
thought it was
80s.
real 80s with the clothes. Oh,
Well, I
Yeah.
thought it was maybe sort of late 80s.
sorry, we hit the lag again.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Yeah, but I think it was sort of late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, because it was just some of the computing references, unless they just seemed a little bit ahead of that.
They spoke about surfing the web, didn't they, and the internet? And was that 80s? Like, were you able to do anything like that in the 80s?
Not sure.
I don't remember being able to get on to AOL's instant messaging until I was in high school, which that was like the early 90s. So
I feel like it was 90s.
maybe they were like straddling it a little bit, the 2 decades.
Yeah, maybe because like Pete rightly said, a lot of the clothing was very 80s, wasn't it?
I think it goes back to that thing about the what's it called, the like camera angles being different. We're getting an unreliable narrator here, and so while the feel of it is very 80s, some of the stuff that they're dealing with was out of place.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I noticed. I remember, like the hairdo that Vision had in this. I remember, that wedge with the curtains. I used to have that hairdo, and I think, what was it? Leo had it in Titanic, and what was that? That was like 97, right?
It was 97.
I also was really curious with Vision having his suit pants were like really high up.
Yeah, what was
that an 80s thing, or is that a Paul Bettany thing?
It's got to be a Paul Bettany thing, hasn't it? It's got to be. I don't remember that.
Maybe if you're tall like that, show it off, right?
Yeah, she was wearing the high jeans and had the braces with it and whatever, right? Which was very very.
She was almost dressed like Chucky at one point, I thought.
Oh, with the overalls.
Do you think that was deliberate?
I don't know. I mean, I think Chucky should probably be thrown into everything, but no, that's probably just on me, I think.
Yes, absolutely. So I mean, this thing with, and again, we've discussed this in previous episodes, but the thing about the X-Men Quicksilver, played by Evan Peters, coming back instead of the Aaron Taylor Johnson version. What I found interesting there is they still refer to him as Pietro, right? But actually, in the X-Men franchise, they Americanized the character, and it was Peter Maximoff.
Yeah.
But here's a weird sort of thing that went through my head, sort of really weird theory, if you like.
Is it related to this?
Well, no.
I worry about your head.
No, okay, absolutely. I would as well. No, it's just that those X-Men films that featured him, okay, they took place in the 80s and 90s, right?
Yes.
So I'm wondering, whereas obviously the version with her brother, because they explain, she wasn't born to 1989. Wanda Maximoff was born in 1989. So obviously the events with Pietro, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who got killed in Age of Ultron, those would have been in the the 2010s at some point, right? Whereas I'm just wondering if that's got something to do with it as well, whether it's because this is supposed to be set in like the 80s stroke 90s, and that was in another universe, that was the version of Quicksilver that existed in that time. Am I overthinking this?
Do you know what? No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously we had the part about Monica's clothes being created from the clothes she was wearing, so everything gets created in the era, and she changes everything. She doesn't create anything out of nothing, does she? She's changing things, and so I think that's a good shout, actually.
Okay.
Well, if this like episode is in the 80s, and that's, or like 80s/90s, her brother from MCU would have been alive, right? So why not have him show up rather than this other, the Peter Maximov.
It's another fair point.
Yeah, no,
Sorry, Keith.
I don't know. I'm just. I mean, I think part of it as well is because they're doing this whole sitcom thing. It does sort of play into that trope where actors change, with no explanation, right? In fact, pretty much any franchise has this problem, including the MCU. If you look at some of the early films,
yeah, very true.
So it kind of also gets around that that sort of continuity thing as well.
See, what interestingly, I would be happier with it being that, but we'll get onto that. But
Edward Norton would not.
But also,
I'm sorry, but we all know who the better Hulk is.
Okay, well, yeah, there's a matter for discussion, but yeah,
absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do a podcast on the Hulk. I'd quite be up for that. But in terms of predictions, the only thing that I do know, and this is probably more aimed at Barbara as a question, is that with this scenario that we've kind of been given now, do we therefore get their father involved in the show?
Yes, and the two actors that they have in all of the commercials, have been the same actors, and I do sort of wonder, do you think that could be their parents?
Their biological parents, yes.
Yeah, Wanda's.
Yeah, because I was more thinking about the father who's retconned.
Oh, right. Yes. Sorry, that father.
And I wonder if that's possibly where they're going. But this then brings us onto the whole: is this a multiverse situation?
Yes, which we've already gone into that a little bit. I mean, I don't know, Pete. You're very quiet there. What are your thoughts?
I got lost here in this conversation. I don't know what's happening. What are we talking about? The father, and also, didn't we see their parents on a screen at one point? So wouldn't we know if the actors in the commercial are the parents in real life?
Don't know. Good question.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Don't know the answer to that.
No, I don't either.
So this is like a divergence between origin material in the comics and like what's been created in our modern era in the movies, right? So in the comics, Wanda and Pietro are twins, and they, in one arc, they think that Magneto is their father, but that actually plays out to be revealed as just mind tricks on the twins to get them to fulfill evil purposes. So I do see it as a way for like the MCU to tie the Fox material in again, if they were to say yes, these two are Magneto's children, and it's been like a theme in the Fox movies already, Magneto losing a human wife and daughter, right? And then Quicksilver somehow knows that Magneto is his dad, and that's the Evan Peters Quicksilver. So
that's correct.
The fact that they bring Evan Peters back, maybe, that's like another thread that they're weaving in here.
Yeah, they got all sorts of.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was just to say that. I mean, the other thing that's fascinating, because I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about Peter/Pietro for a little while longer on this podcast. But I mean, the other thing that I don't know if this was new, but with Agnes, she does seem to be the only one who's quite knowing of the situation. As in, Vision had to extract the real mind of one of the cast members, but Agnes seems to be outside of that, so leads me to believe that Agnes isn't originally from Westview, and she's come to Westview from somewhere else.
Yeah, which was actually one of your theories, Barbara, last time, that she could in fact be this character Agatha Harkness, is that right? Who's a
Yeah.
witch from
And I think
Salem
this
times?
week probably strengthened that idea, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, wasn't that weird at the beginning when she's like, when it all stopped and the canned laughter and everything went,
I
and
loved
she
it.
went, do you want me to do that again?
See, I want to see more of that.
Because obviously Vision wasn't behaving as they were expecting him to in that scene, and she was like, hold on, yeah, do you want us to go again? And then he's like, did you see that? And she's obviously, you know, covering it up and brushing it off. But that was very interesting and made and the way they shot that made you feel super uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. I kind of think that scene indicates that there is I don't think Wanda necessarily is controlling Westview or created Westview, and she says that towards the end of the episode to Vision when they're arguing about it. She says, like, I don't know how this all started, but I don't remember the rest of her sentence. But I think
she says, doesn't she, that she says, "Oh, what, you think I'm controlling everyone going to dentist appointments and all this kind of thing?" So she does hint. You're right. She hints very strongly that, well, it can't be me. That's ridiculous.
Right. And so, and in the comics, Agatha she's a, super old, very wily witch who like manages to, survive for centuries. And she is Wanda's mentor and like helps Wanda understand her own powers and the extent of them more fully. So I think that the way that scene played out with Catherine Hahn saying, "Oh, do you want me to do it again?" is an indicator that somebody else, like some bigger player, is controlling Westview and manipulating Wanda, because it doesn't make sense to me that a mentor would be like nervous and taking their cues from the, like supposedly the student or the lesser power.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But again, like, I don't want Wanda to be cast as the villain. So I'm looking for somebody else to be.
Yeah, I kind of do, and I don't. I quite like when we see characters that have that dark and light, and how they play with that.
Right.
But no, I think ultimately I agree. I'd rather her be the kind of hero.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Pete, what are your thoughts? Have you got any thoughts on director Hayward, for example?
My what?
The sword moron, the like bigwig who calls for the missile to be
the
shot.
sword moron.
So I really don't like that character.
No, he's awful.
Sorry, I'm going to go back a second. Because what I thought was that Wanda actually was controlling everything, and when she says, "Do you think I'm doing it?" it's because she's the inconsistent narrator again, right? Or the what's it called? The
unreliable narrator. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I took it to be that she is absolutely in control of all this because of that scene with the director where she was like, "Hey, I'm in control here. You all need to leave." That's what I took away from that. Might be wrong, but that's definitely where my head is at. In relation to the director himself, I think that I was trying to figure out the reference there, to be honest, because when he put the explosive or the missile in the probe that went in, that really felt like a callback to something to me, but I couldn't figure out what it was a callback to, of somebody in the government doing something shady. It might not be MCU.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I think there was a moment like that in one of the movies with, what's his name with the eye patch?
Nick Fury. Nick Fury.
But right, Fury. At one point, he's like ready to engage in battle, and I can't remember if it's Hulk or I think it's actually Captain America. He's like, "Wait, what are you doing?" Right, and Fury says, "Like, you really are that naive that you think like we're just here to observe." So
yeah. I remember. Yeah.
Maybe that's a common characterization of government.
Yeah, and also Hayward, when he introduced himself, said that he was acting director of Sword or whatever. Do we think that maybe Nick Fury is the actual director of Sword?
Well, I think it was Monica, wasn't it? Was it Monica who was?
Right, because she
Before
was
she
missing
died.
in the snap. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then but she was originally,
Nick
wasn't
Fury also blipped.
she? Nick Fury did blip.
So
Well,
when he says he's acting director, it's because it's right after the blip. Nick Fury, as per the rules that they set out, couldn't be director.
I feel
Right,
like
yeah.
it was.
blipped was
Well, anyway,
Was it Monica's
was
mom?
Fury was in charge of Shield, and Sword is like it's like the FBI versus the CIA. So I don't think Fury's in charge. I think it's correct that they said Monica's mom got Sword started because she was a pilot and then had run, like, Captain Marvel was her best friend, so obviously she's aware of extraterrestrials. So not only does there need to be an agency that monitors superpowers on Earth, but also like for outer space.
No, absolutely.
So that's what Sword is.
Yeah. Cool. By the way, Daniel Leach says hi, guys.
Hey, Daniel.
In the
Hey,
chat.
Daniel.
So thanks for
Thanks for
tuning
joining
in.
us again.
Yeah,
I do,
absolutely.
Keith. If I may, I do have a question about this episode. Did Wanda bring Vision back to life?
I think
yeah.
She just
Well, she stole his
just-
corpse,
but she
right?
just straight up brought him back to life. That's what they
Hmm.
hinted at, I think.
In her world, yes. I think they've said a number of times in the show whenever Vision has said to her, "Oh, we can leave." Obviously, I mean, he doesn't know exactly what's going on, and he's only starting to sort of suspect things in this episode. But there's been a few times where he said about we can leave, and she goes, "No, we can't." And that's always been in character of the sitcom. But maybe this is the problem. He can only be alive within that bubble, within the hex as they're calling it now, right?
You called it a hex.
Yeah. So because she took the corpse, right? But of course sorry, Pete.
No, maybe the Catherine Hahn's character is what's actually keeping him alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
I'm happy
So
with that.
yeah, I mean, who knows? Well, we're just over the halfway mark now, aren't we, with the show?
Yeah.
One other thing that was mentioned that made me raise an eyebrow was when Rambo mentions that she knows an aerospace engineer that can help them get through the shield. Now, who do you think she's referring to there? It goes back to something I mentioned last week, which was a stretch, no pun intended.
Oh, yes.
there we go. The Fantastic Four.
I mean,
Yeah.
is that ridiculous? Is that an absolutely ridiculous idea? I don't know.
Well, I think it depends on really what's happening with the show, doesn't it? And why, for example, why we're having Pietro or Peter from the X-Men films, because what they've opened up now is that nothing's off the table.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, this is the thing, and for me, and we'll come on to it, I'm sure, but for me, that brings up a lot of pros and cons, because now they've opened this up. You can do whatever you want, whatever character you want, whatever universe, whatever timeline. It's all on the table. So it's hard to speculate on something that could go in any direction it wants.
Sure. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Well, no, absolutely. Well, one more. I have one more question about the speculation, and I don't know whether you guys have any others before we move on. But here's the thing: they made a big deal of asking. Hayward asked Jimmy Woo, whether whether Wanda Maximoff had any particular alias, any silly name, any superhero alias.
Mhm.
And does this mean that what we're sort of aiming with this series is kind of the birth of the Scarlet Witch? Because I'm assuming because of that, she was never actually ever referred to as Scarlet Witch in any of the movies, right?
Right. She doesn't have that name.
Right. I'm just wondering if she's going to end up with that name because of what she's doing, in this show, if you know what I mean, because she's obviously the red is associated with everything. Yeah, when she does something, there's always the red energy, and if she is indeed controlling everything, and they're calling it, they've even said they're calling it the hex and all that. Do you think that's how she's going to end up with her sort of comic book superhero name? Is it supervillain? Who knows? But that name, again, am I way off here, or do you think?
No, I think that's a really good way for her to, have an alias.
Cool. Well, anything else? Any other sort of theories or speculation before we get into what we think about it all?
Just another comic book mention. Scarlet Witch's powers. She's able to manifest her telekinesis in concentrated blasts of energy that are called hex bolts. So when they, they start calling the space the hex, that was kind of cute.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Pete, any other theories from you?
No, I'm just along for the ride.
But don't sound too enthusiastic, Pete. Bloody hell.
That's a poster quote, if ever I heard one.
We've got, I want to encourage people on the chat to comment in. So Daniel's saying it's kind of a weird move this episode. It feels as though the creatives are trapping themselves into a corner. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, this is kind of what I was sort of hinting at in my last comment, that I think now that they've opened this up, it's kind of hard to keep it all concise, because now, you've got this kind of, you're going to have people speculating online and who can be in it, and that, I fear, could dictate what they do. If enough people on social media are saying, "Oh, I want to see this character," that might dictate what the writers do. So I don't know.
Okay, well let's if we're out of theories for now, let's do our Avengers Assemble and talk about our feelings, thoughts, nitpicks, etc. on this episode. So well, in fact, Ryan, do you want to kick things off with that?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think my kind of general feeling is that I am enjoying the show very much. I think my excitement, this is going to blow your minds, but my excitement kind of ebbed slightly with this one. I think I've said on a previous podcast that I'm not a fan of multiverses, and this is something that we're going to get across superhero films from now on. We're seeing it in DC in The Flash and with Batman, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man, and potentially this. I don't know if this is a multiverse, but if that is indeed the case and it is a multiverse situation, it's something that it kind of leaves me a bit cold. So my excitement over an intrigue that was built so well has suddenly become okay, if it's a multiverse, then it kind of doesn't matter what I think. It's just going to go off in all sorts of different directions. I think it doesn't quite help that I prefer Aaron Taylor Johnson as Quicksilver. I don't think that helps a hell of a lot. And I think also what doesn't help is that when it comes to the X-Men films, I only really like the first one. So for me, Evan Peters isn't this hero of mine where, oh my God, it's got Evan Peters in it. I just sort of went, oh, it's the rubbish one. I jest, of course. But, you know, for me, it was kind of like, it felt like a nod and a wink, and it felt like Disney going, don't worry, folks, we've got the X-Men in the canon. And it felt more like a marketing ploy than a plot point. But, you know, this is me being very, very nitpicky.
They had to use Evan Peters because no. They had to use Evan Peters because the other one, the non-rubber, whatever, I don't remember his name. Yes, and it's out of my head already. He's dead, right? So it's like it makes total sense to me that they have to use the one who they haven't killed. And like the thing about multiverses is that multiverses is just a comic book way of never ending, right? Where like
well, exactly.
in the reality we have to deal with writers who want to move on and stop doing stuff, and so the only way you keep telling the story with the same characters and the same names is by you know letting or taking on this conceit of the multiverse. And so I don't know, it doesn't bother me that much. I'm again, in my thrilling endorsement, I am along for the ride.
No, I mean, I too am in for the ride, and I definitely see that. But that's kind of my issue at the same time, in that I don't have a problem with a story ending. You know, some of the best TV shows ended, you know, and sometimes that's just how stories are. And I think what I would probably say is that for me, coming at this, I have to hold my hands up and say, look, I haven't read a lot of comic books. I'm not a comic book fan. I wish I was. I'll probably get into them a little bit later on. But for me, I come at these things from a movie perspective, and I feel like, and this is a good thing, really, but I feel like WandaVision is now a program that is catering more for those comic book fans who have put in those years of fandom. And now that we've had the Avengers and we've had all the kind of more mainstream characters, and now those guys are on board, this is now a chance for the comic book fans to actually see more of what they want to see. And I think for me, I could be completely wrong. I feel like multiverses are part of that comic book fabric. And so for me, it just leaves me cold. And so I was a little bit disappointed at the end of this episode. Because I just thought, well, okay. And like I said previously, now that you can do multiverses and bring whoever you want back, where's my intrigue coming from? Because now I know that you can just fix whatever you want.
Well, in the comics, the multiverse is a way for, like, yes, for beloved characters to be able to continue participating in the storylines, but there are rules. Like, you actually are not supposed to mess with timelines that have already happened, which also obviously, like, that would include resurrecting people who have died. So I don't think it's as much of a carte blanche as it might feel to somebody who doesn't have a comic book background. I do think it's an opportunity for the entertainment to stay a little bit higher level, because the concept of multiverses can actually be quite complex. And then, whenever timeline stuff gets brought up in movies, right, it's like, wait, but which timeline was that one from? What happened in that timeline, right? So I do think it'll keep it interesting, and it's more of the feel of like Doctor Strange's powers and interactions, and even Ant-Man also, like with Dr. Pym, they get into what was the like subatomic realm that they get
the quantum realm. Yeah,
right.
The quantum realm, which was key in Avengers Endgame in the end. So
right.
But Daniel Leach kind of agrees with you there, Ryan, I think, because he's put multiverses are too contrived. Disney and other studios have to get back to basics, which, fair comment. I'm sort of, I kind of don't mind this sort of multiverse idea. I mean, obviously, you know, these Disney aren't the first to do this. You know, the Arrowverse on television had that event last year called Crisis on Infinite Earths, based on the DC comic, where, you know, there was loads of different multiverses, and, you know, we had Brandon Routh back as Superman, and, you know, even though the Arrowverse already had its own Superman, and, you know, there was all sorts of weird stuff going on, and they keep threatening to do that with Flashpoint on the movies as well, don't they? So you know, this isn't really kind of a new thing to film in television now, but
it feels messy. It feels messy. Do you know what I mean? As soon as you start getting into that Arrow, then you've got Brandon back as Superman, and there's all that. It just starts to feel a bit messy to me.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. In fact, Lennon Paul has put a comment up. How mad would it be for Hugh Jackman to return to reprise his role? Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, anything's on the table. I personally think, much as I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, I think that his his send off was. I just think his send off was perfect in Logan, and I don't.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Except
no, I was
kind of the same as Barbara there. I was a bit worried.
Well, you thought I was going to say it should be recast or something? Is that what you thought I was going to say?
Like,
yeah. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm actually saying is he is so perfect. And again, sorry guys, spoilers for we're even outside of the MCU now. The X-Men franchise, you know, obviously Logan, which I think is a fantastic movie within that franchise, did such a heartfelt and serious and proper send-off to the character that I almost think him coming back to it would be a bit of a shame. But that's just me, who probably feels like that. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, actually, it's Lennon. It's cool that you brought that up, because in that House of M series where Wanda's insane, one of the only people who's able to keep track of reality is Wolverine, and
right.
that is because he's had all these experiments done to him. His mind can't be affected, and he's like not as susceptible as most people, whether they're human or mutants.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
well,
I'm in. Hugh Jackman, bring him in.
I'm pleased
I'm like that with most films.
I'm pleased to see that I was worried that my comment might have offended Lennon, actually, but it didn't, because it was a perfect movie to send him off, was the response. So yeah. Thanks.
I agree.
But listen, like I say, when it comes to this sort of stuff, I'm still on board. I still enjoy the show, and I'm still excited to watch the next one. So yeah, I'm going to be relatively open-minded about the multiverse situation, if indeed it is that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So cool. Well, any other thoughts, nitpicks, etc.? I mean, there's obviously plenty of things we can dig into here. It's just kind of well, it's almost like knowing where to start, really. But Barbara, sorry. No, I was going to say, Barbara, anything that strikes you or that you want to discuss in particular?
I do think that this is like Wanda is it's doing a good job of telling her story on its own, but I also think it's turning out to be a really necessary gateway to the next Marvel installations. And I do think they're going to go with the multiverse explanation. I'm not sure how everything is going to come together just yet, but big hint, it's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, right?
Yeah,
the clues in the title. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I could see also Wanda, like, I don't think that necessarily it's going to be all tidily wrapped up by the 9th episode, because there is a lot of material in the House of M run. If it turns out like Wanda has a break in this show, and then there's the multiverse. Like Doctor Strange was one of the only people who could connect with her in the comics, like even in her insanity. So, and I feel like there's sort of this unwritten rule within the Disney MCU storytelling that like good guys don't go bad, right? Like even what's Bucky, right, was manipulated by Hydra, but eventually he's able to be redeemed. Like nobody really goes off the cliff and joins the other team, the evil team. So it could give them like a lot of really interesting material, I think, for the fans to like get invested in. If it's like, oh no, Wanda's having a really hard time, she goes crazy and she's like threatening reality as we know it, and then cue Doctor Strange comes in, cue Loki is there was like a hint, I think Owen Wilson popped up in a trailer or something, and he's from the Time Variance Authority. So then if you have the multiverse, there's going to be another agency that tries to regulate what happens and how people interact with the timeline, the multiverse. So like, it just opens up a whole lot of other stuff. And I like Wanda and Vision a lot, so I think it would be really neat to see them stay in the material.
Yeah, no, I agree. Good points there. Couple more comments we've got. So Lennon Paul has come back saying, I think the only person that would make sense to cameo in WandaVision would be Magneto. Absolutely. So, but would it be Sir Ian McKellen or would it be Michael Fassbender? There's the question.
Oh, actually, I wanted to say, I think in our comments, or maybe on the Instagram, we should do like a this or that and put like, okay, fans, if Magneto comes back, do we want Ian McKellen or James McAvoy? And
that's a nice idea.
Not James McAvoy.
Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender. But like we could do the same thing for Professor X as well.
Yeah.
And in terms of the star power, though, I think for Disney to bring like Ian McKellen in, whoa, right? That would be insane. So my bet is going to be Doctor Strange coming in.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think linking to the movie is it seems inevitable, really, doesn't it?
Interesting. Yeah. Daniel's also responded here that Jackman was awesome, but his arc as Wolverine is done. It would be a cheap fan service to bring him back. I'm inclined to agree with that, I have to say. Again, much as I like Jackman's portrayal. And Lennon Paul is saying, because if her reality is to have the perfect life, she would want a dad, and she can't bring back her dad from the dead. So she did, as she did with Pietro, she take his dad from another universe, therefore Fassbender. Yeah, okay, interesting.
Well,
Pete, have you got any thoughts on this? Yeah, I was going to say, have you got any thoughts, Pete?
Yeah, I'm fine with bringing in other people, other characters, other universes. I think that comment there really nailed it, right? Yeah, brings the like the purpose behind it versus just the sort of what's it called, like the money reality purpose behind it. You're able to tie a storyline into why they made that decisions. I really like that thought.
Yeah, no, I'm loving the fact that that we're getting these comments from people in the chat. I really appreciate it, guys. So thank you, and keep doing it. I will obviously get to as many comments as possible. So cool. Ryan, sorry, I felt like you wanted to say something just a minute ago, and I kind of asked someone else a question. So
no, not at all. I've been I think this has been quite a fascinating kind of a chat about who we can bring in. But I mean, it is exciting when you think about what characters can come and go. Just as long as that writing stays as strong as it has done so far, then yeah, I'm still all in. But it is funny how reality, I think sort of Pete was talking about it there, like it is funny how reality has to come in and you kind of go, well, Captain Marvel would be great if she turned up, but is that likely? Like, do you know what I mean? It's funny when reality does actually sort of have to play a part. Although with everything that's going on in the world right now, you know, with most things going to streaming, it's quite possible that these big stars will have to appear on the small screen a little bit more often than they used to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's likely as well. So talking of things in reality then, sorry, this is a really weird segue, but what do we all think of bulletproof bell bottoms?
Well, will those things ever die? I
liked the
liked
explanation.
it.
Yeah, I did. I personally, I know it was a bit sort of sci-fi science, but I did kind of like the explanation.
I love the fact that it was that dramatic, where in reality you'd probably just go up and knock to it and go, "Oh, look!" Because she looks at the monitor.
Right, you could
and
just
goes,
look at the computer screen instead of shooting the pants.
Exactly. She looks at the monitor and goes, "See, look, it's 80%. You know, whatever
Kevlar.
material,
Yeah, Kevlar.
Kevlar."
Yeah.
You're like, did you have to shoot the gun? Like what? You know, come on. But yeah, those were funny little moments. And I'm sorry, Pete, there just wasn't enough Darcy this week.
Oh, I think who were you hating on? Evan Peters, right? So Evan Peters is going to block you the way Darcy's blocking me.
No.
No, I must admit, I like one of the things I think they're doing quite well, and it is a hard line to tread, is I think, you know, kudos to the writers and filmmakers here. I think they've got the balance of comedy and serious, you know, more dark stuff. I think they've got the balance quite well. The other thing that, you know, I think the filmmakers are just having an absolute blast with this. They're clearly having, I think, so much fun with it. And one of the things I noticed this week, which again they're kind of doing a happy medium, is this week the aspect ratio, you know, shifted from 16:9 to you know, 2:35, which is obviously the film aspect ratio. But of course, technically, the TV show in the 80s and 90s would still be in 4:3 because you know, 16:9 didn't really come into the early 2000s. But again, I think they've kind of got that balance there, so it's not too distracting and annoying, you know, changing from a box to a full scope thing each time. Do you know what I mean? Or am I just being nerdy? I'm probably just being nerdy.
It's a bit of both.
No,
Keith.
I really like the those changes, and Keith, I appreciate that you know the terminology and stuff, because the first time they did it in the show, I was like, what is going on with the framing? Like, why are they doing that? And but it's, you know, one of those subtle things that makes for really quality work, you know.
Yeah,
that's 4 years of film school for you. Yeah, but something good came out of it.
But it's also nice to see that they're thinking about those little touches, and that's what that is what elevates a show, isn't it? From something that's mediocre to actually quite special, which this is, despite the Pietro issue.
Indeed. Okay, so we've got a couple of interesting questions that's come in. Let's tackle this one first. So Lennon Paul is asking, do you think Vision will survive WandaVision, or will he be dead? There's a speculative thing to tackle. What do you think?
Well, going from the comics, I would say he would survive. But if they are expanding and bringing the Fox material in, I think it's too many people, too many characters and actors, and somebody's going to have to get cut, you know?
Pete, I'm sure you've got a thought on this, Pete.
Barbara crushed it with that answer. That was exactly what I would say.
Oh, right. I thought because you keep bringing up about how you're surprised that Bettany's even in this, and there would be your answer.
Yeah, right. And also, like Barbara said, there's the reality of just too many characters, right? And somebody's got to go. And I'm sure Paul Bettany is making good money on this because he's coming from that, you know, movie contract world. And so I think it's just going to make all the sense in the world to let him have a death scene and then move on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And here's one for you, Ryan. So Daniel is saying, not a big fan of Brie Larson. I would have cast Katie Sackhoff as Captain Marvel.
Now, the thing is, there's two things at play there, aren't there? There's A, I bloody love Brie Larson, and I think she nailed the role. But Katie Sackhoff as Captain Marvel, all day long. I mean, that would be inspired casting.
Me and Pete are big Katie Sackhoff fans, aren't we?
You didn't watch Another Life. Yeah.
Oh, I did watch Another Life.
Check out
Katie Sackhoff, 'cause...
No, check out our podcast on that coming soon, right, Pete?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, coming very soon.
So that one's already in the can. But yeah.
Poor Brie Larson.
Well, you know, she didn't do herself any favors with the press stuff, did she? At the time, she wound people up the wrong way a little bit. So yeah.
But did she wind people up that were bound to be wound up by anything anyway, or I don't know?
Well, you know, put it this way, I'm torn because I actually do think Brie Larson did a great job as Captain Marvel, but now Daniel's gone and put Katie Sackhoff in my head. I'm kind of like, oh damn it! Can we... but then again, she is Bo-Katan, so we've got the best of both worlds, right?
I think she belongs to some other sci-fi stories. So,
and also, look, you know, with a multiverse, get Katie Sackhoff as Captain Marvel. Why not?
Oh, there you go.
You see, everything's on the table. You don't have to write this stuff. You just say,
everyone
just get them as that. That's fine.
Yeah, I love it. What else have we got to talk about? So okay, how are we feeling? All right, so
we have one more comment from Lennon Poole again.
Let me show that. I'd missed that one. Yeah. So Lennon has put, when the X-Men are introduced, would you like to see more obscure characters like Rogue and Bandit maybe getting a Disney Plus series? I'd love that. Lennon has put.
I actually don't consider them obscure because they are part of like the first round of canon in the comic books. I think there are still some other characters that could come in, like Gambit. They haven't ever really done, so Gambit I think definitely belongs in there. Storm is a fan fave. She should totally like have a show at some point. And then I think it replaces the need for really obscure characters like who is in the Deadpool with Colossus. She was like Teenage Riot or something like that. So she had some weird name. Teenage make them something or other. I need to look it up because that's going to bug me now. keep talking.
I just think as long as we get a Squirrel Girl TV show, I'm fine.
Ryan, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And Anna Kendrick, little Anna Kendrick playing Squirrel Girl.
It's
is that just for me?
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Yeah, right.
Oh my god!
Was that?
And Lennon has said Gambit. Sorry, not I guess not Rogue, or was it Rogue or Bandit or whatever was in the previous thing. Sorry,
you said Bandit.
Yeah, Gambit. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, well, you know, that's fair comment. Like you said, anything's open now, isn't it? It really is. Okay, so I was a bit bothered. Let's talk about this a little bit. How did you feel? What were your thoughts on this sort of rapid aging of the twins that Wanda couldn't seem to control? Any thoughts or anything on that?
I can tell you it creeped me out. I can tell you that, and I can also say it was a little bit like. Do you remember the end of the Michael Jackson Black or White video? I found out we were back in those.
They morph.
They kind of morphed, and it was a bit like, oh my god, what year is this? But no, I don't.
Probably
know
the year it's supposed to be in.
Yeah, true. I I don't know, aside from it creeping me out. But then again, I feel like there was a sense of inevitability about that anyway, due to the fact that her pregnancy was so quick. And I kind of had already thought in my mind that they were going to start aging anyway, which again, I guess then brings on speculation for who they might eventually become.
Would you like to know what happens in the comics?
See, I personally do. Is this something we want to keep?
Well,
what do you think?
I think to be fair, the MCU, it just in general is deviated enough from the comics that anything that we talk about that happens in the comics is not necessarily going to be a spoiler for what's going on in the cinematic universe, is it?
That's
So
true.
yeah, get fire away, I'd say.
So they have a pretty normal childhood in the comics, but they do both turn out to be superpowered themselves, and become like the next generation, the quote unquote young Avengers. So it could be, just another way that Disney is nodding towards future material.
No, absolutely.
Cool.
I think that's cool. By the way, Daniel has put, I would like a Nightcrawler series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why not? Yeah. He's been done a couple of times in the movies, right? In the Fox movies.
Fine, but I don't get Squirrel Girl. Is that what?
Is Squirrel Girl actually a character? Excuse my ignorance, but is that actually a character?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she's very side story. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Fair enough.
She's
okay.
like the tank girl of the Marvel universe.
Oh, right.
Which already sounds awesome.
I was going to say that actually makes it sound more appealing. To be fair, yeah. So
that wasn't intended.
Yeah, I think you kind of overshot that.
There you go. Lennon Paul has put, I feel like the MCU has done Drax dirty, even if he is a good character in all the films. In the comics, he is insanely strong. Do you think he should be a lot more like his comic part in the future?
But he was in every scene, wasn't he? We just couldn't see him.
I do think they are downplaying
Such a subtle joke.
Drax. Like he just has the kind of like so literal about things, right? So he's been pigeonholed as like this like maybe not so smart strong guy, which is such a stereotype, right? So I think it'd be cool for Drax to get his own story as well.
To be honest, I don't really love the way they went with the Hulk by the end, and I'd actually still quite like to see a lone Hulk story.
Yeah, I think that's some sort of issue with Universal. I believe some sort of rights thing with Universal is stopping us getting a solo Hulk movie, which is why they've sort of teamed him up with Thor in those movies. I think I might be wrong there, but I believe that's some sort of stupid legal shenanigans.
Well, it sounds about right, because the Ed Norton Hulk isn't on Disney Plus, is it?
Exactly. And that is still the second film in the MCU, regardless of what people think.
Yeah, it's true.
I have to say, oh God, it's controversial, but I'm a bit of a fan of the Incredible Hulk, the Ed Norton film, simply because of my. No, I'm sorry, but my love of the TV show is kind of that film homages it a lot. But there you go.
I like the first 15-20 minutes, maybe. That helps. Does that help? Or it doesn't help.
I mean, it is canon, right? Even though it's a massive continuity.
I think
change,
we have to. I think
canon,
we have to call it canon. But I think maybe Barbara agrees. I think begrudgingly.
I think Ed Norton is an amazing actor, but I think Mark Ruffalo is the one who is really right for the role.
I loved him in the first two Avengers. I didn't like Hulk going too comedy, if I'm honest, but I'd love to see more of Ruffalo as the Hulk.
I know some people were upset with Smart Hulk in the Avengers Endgame, which didn't actually bother me, I have to say, because Ruffalo's such a great actor, and they did such a good job with the visual effects that I thought it worked quite well. But what were your thoughts on that, Barbara?
Did they say why they were upset?
I think people just wanted to see Hulk being Hulk smash, raging, angry Hulk, and they didn't want necessarily glasses and jumpers and intellect.
Well, we didn't really. I mean, I suppose he couldn't fight much, but I watched Endgame again recently, and once he takes to the battlefield, we don't really see him after that. He kind of takes to the battlefield, and then that's it. We don't really see him fight.
Yeah, true.
Hulk smash is so one note, and it's also not true to the comics. So I'm glad that they had Smart Hulk and then like Charming Hulk, right? When he's in the restaurant and people want his autograph and stuff.
I love that scene.
Like,
to say, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? It's Paul Rudd who makes that scene.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Even though it's good, but his reactions in that scene are just absolutely spot on, and I think that scene's brilliant.
Yeah, I love that scene. I have to say, despite my wanting to see Hulk smash stuff, I do love that scene.
Pete, you're being very quiet. Do you have thoughts on this?
No. Sorry, we're all doing great.
Cool. We got some more comments here. So Daniel has put, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is more about connecting stories than the original comic book material. Barbara, that you're probably the most qualified to respond to that one.
Yeah, I do think that that's accurate. But I have been really enjoying that Marvel honors the source material. There's always like little nods to things, and sometimes they're really, really subtle, but I appreciate that they're not just rewriting, like just making stuff up whole cloth, right? So yeah, I think it's a good synthesis so far.
Cool. And here's another question for us from Lennon. Who would you say is the best superhero casting ever? My God, that's a tricky one.
Well, I honestly, off the top of my head, I'd have to go over to DC.
The same reaction.
And probably say Christopher Reeve.
Yeah,
absolutely, Ryan.
Yeah, it's got to be, isn't it? I mean, it has to be. I mean, he's so perfect, and even if you go back and watch those films now, it is no one else. There's literally no one else could play that. It's quite something, really. It's quite special what he brings to that, with not just his physicality, but just those little nuances.
Everything.
The sense of humor that he brings to it. It's really, really wonderful. But if MCU, off the top of my head, I'm going to go with Robert Downey.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I kind of agree. Like, obviously, the whole Christopher Reeve thing, who's obviously a great loss to the planet, that we don't have him around anymore. But love Christopher Reeve, and you're right. He was the perfect Superman, and he was the guy that actually made Clark Kent a different character to Superman. With his performance, both physical and vocal and everything. So. I would tend to agree with you there. In terms of DC,
who Peter's vote is in the MCU, like hands down. Come on, Pete, tell us.
I want a drum roll.
Chris Evans.
Yeah,
Captain America.
Yeah, well, I agree. He is great as well. I mean,
it's pretty spot on.
The guy, and I also agree with what you're saying about. It's weird. It's almost like I want to give three answers. So it's like, one is DC, one is MCU, and then the other is X-Men. Because we've already talked about how frigging great Hugh Jackman is, right?
Yeah.
So it's tricky. What about you, Barbara? What's your thoughts?
Oh, I was absolutely gonna say Christopher Reeve also, and I own that, like, part of that might be nostalgia, because that those movies were out when I was a kid, and so it was like with that wide-eyed wonder,
Yeah.
but I don't care.
Yeah. May 570 has commented here, and I'm laughing because I've had this conversation with her. So that's why I could never do Smallville, not my Superman. And that's because even though I'm a massive Christopher Reeve fan, I was also a massive fan of Smallville. I have to say, a bit of a mega fan. And this argument used to come up quite a bit. And the thing is, I can't disagree with it. It's like I get it. So absolutely.
Well, look, everybody likes their steak dinner, but they also like their popcorn, so
yeah, absolutely.
Exactly that. No, thanks for these comments. They're brilliant. I'm loving it. So and you know what, it's really hard. Pete, you said Captain America, and Chris Evans as Captain America, and Ryan, you said Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, and it's funny because obviously they're the two sides of the same coin, aren't they? In the Civil War and whatever, and I would be hard pushed to say who I think's better out of those two, actually, because they are essentially what Jackman is to X-Men and Reeve is to DC in many respects. Yeah, tricky. Paul Dulake has said Chris Reeve absolutely relies on talent, not just CGI. And yes,
there we go. Right, that's a
disagree
really
with
valid
that
point. Yeah,
that's got me thinking about the when Adam West was in The Simpsons, and he was talking to a fan about. I assume he was talking about the Tim Burton Batmans, and he's going, "I didn't need rubber to improve my physique. Pure West."
Yes, exactly.
Wow, very humble.
I mean, Reeve was a Juilliard trained actor, and he did loads. The thing is, he's always known as Superman, but he did loads of other good stuff. I've just reviewed, ready for Valentine's Day, Somewhere in Time, which is probably my favorite romantic film ever.
Yeah,
and his performance in that is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. Cool. Sorry, I always go off on tangents and probably shouldn't. Okay, I need to. We are obviously getting close to the end of the show, but I do want to sort of ask you guys what you thought of this, because I found it a little bit scary. What are we thinking of Baby Vision?
Baby Vision.
Yeah, in the opening credits.
In the opening credits.
Oh.
He's no Baby Yoda, is he?
That's exactly what I was thinking, although I never like to ever use the term
or Grogu,
Baby Yoda,
I should say. Yeah, what the hell am I thinking? Yeah.
But yes.
I didn't really understand why they went there, because obviously Vision just came into being. He wasn't, although there was a run of comics, I think it was just called Vision, from the mid 2015-ish, I think. Where Vision creates his own perfect family, and they're synthezoids. So his wife, and he has a boy and a girl and a dog even, that are all synthezoids. But
nice. Okay. Was the dog called Sparky as well? Like in this?
Yeah, that's where that's from.
But there's more to the dog, isn't there? But we should probably talk about that in the future.
I don't think so, Ryan.
Is there not? I thought there was.
No,
really.
I don't think so.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Just a couple more comments, but there is one more thing we need to talk about as well. So Daniel was saying Smallville was awesome in the beginning, but fell off a cliff towards the end for me. But,
agreed.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't quite the same when Lex went out of it.
Yeah.
Michael Rosenbaum did a fabulous job as Lex Luthor in that show, I thought.
Well, they should have put Nuclear Man in it, shouldn't they?
Yeah, thank God they didn't do that. Yes. And Lennon Paul saying, who is the best cast villain of all time? DC, I would say Heath Ledger. MCU, probably Killmonger, and Fox would be Magneto. How about yours? As we're putting it in 3 categories now, that's my fault. So,
Yeah, what have you done?
what do you
I
guys
don't
think?
know. I'd have to think on that a little bit.
I'd have to say Joker in Jack Nicholson from
Ooh,
Michael
okay.
Keaton's
Oh.
Batman.
So good.
I thought you were going to say Jared Leto.
Oh, jeez.
I am kidding. Yeah, there you go. That made Pete laugh.
Best
Daniel
villain.
has put Heath Ledger as Joker for him for sure. Ryan,
It's hard to beat.
what are your votes on that?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, once Heath Ledger pops in there, you sort of think, yeah, I mean that was pretty damn perfect, wasn't it, as a role for anybody? But yeah, he did. It's got to be up there. Like off the top of my head, it's interesting with the villains. Yeah, I don't really have a favorite. I'm gonna have to come back to you on that.
Mhm.
Come back to me.
Okay, Pete.
Oh man, that's real hard. Man, and I'm afraid to say what the first thing that came to my head was. 'Cause
Oh,
Oh,
come
just-
on. Give it
Oh,
to
go
us.
on.
Come on,
Go
here we
on.
go. Let's do this.
Come on, Pete.
Danny DeVito is Penguin.
Wait,
Oh.
why are you scared to say that? I don't know if you guys know this, but when Pete's really tired, he will randomly go wah, wah, wah.
There you go. I think I heard him doing that in the background just then. So May 570 has put Thanos was a pretty good villain, and I think
He was,
based
wasn't he?
on
He
what
was.
we're talking about today, that's actually probably
think-
very relevant. Yeah.
Well, I think the reason I didn't think Thanos was just because obviously I know it's motion capture, and and we've got Josh Brolin in there, but I sort of see him as a CG character, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I never found Thanos to be that intimidating. And he really seemed to be more of a puppet master. And then like his big move was he snapped his fingers. Like, oh gosh, that's so
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, if you drop off the core suddenly, Barbara, we know why, right?
Yeah.
You've been snapped out
Ah.
of existence for saying that. So
Yeah.
Paul G. Lake has come back
I
saying
also-
Danny DeVito is cool, twisted. So
Good call,
it's a good
yeah.
call. Sorry, Danny DeVito is a good call, twisted, and Daniel has also put good choice, Pete. So there you go. You're not alone on that one, Pete.
I do want to, I think in the MCU, Ultron, like I don't know what they did with James Spader's voice, but he kind of gave me the creeps.
I'm a big fan of that movie generally. Actually, I know
Yeah.
that's controversial as well, but
Really?
yeah, I think he was a good villain. I think Ultron was. I think his voice. I think you're right. I think his voice work for that was pretty damn good actually. And I think in other villains, I'm going to go with Christopher Reeve as Superman from Superman 3.
Oh yeah,
There you
from
go.
Superman 3, which is the only great scene in Superman 3. Let's be honest, but yeah, that is awesome. So, one other thing I want to tackle before we start to wrap things up is we need to talk about Norman and that thing where he says "stop her," and you know, in the episode. Thoughts, please. Because that was a pretty big deal, I thought, in this episode.
I had to really think then what that bit was. That's terrible, isn't it? Sorry, Pete, go on.
That's the coworker with the cell phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was creepy, right? That really sort of brought home what's going on. The other part of that makes me really nervous is the what's it called? No kids in the town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Made me think, if everything in the town Wanda is creating out of other things, what was Sparky made out of? And maybe that's why there are no children.
I
So
like the darkness of that.
I love that darkness. That's good. It's like
Barbara.
Maybe we're going to see a Freddy Krueger crossover.
Barbara doesn't like that.
Well, I'm not behind the theory that Wanda is going to be the villain. And I think I have said this before in an earlier podcast, but I think Dottie is actually going to turn out to be Mephisto or whomever, like the villain who's controlling this and setting everything up. So there's enough ambiguity to support that. Like Norm says he doesn't say Wanda.
Yeah,
right?
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Very
says
true.
stop her, but he doesn't say who. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which could again could support your theory about Agnes, right?
About which part? About Agnes
About Agnes being some sort of controlling
No,
mastermind. But
I think Agnes is an unwilling player as well, and I would if they say that she's, she got tangled up because she was trying to help Wanda, but I think Dottie is going to turn out to be the mastermind.
Dottie, yeah, of course.
Yeah, the perfect neighbor, right?
Yeah, that we've not seen since the second episode. Is that right?
She did pop up at one point.
She popped up in that gag, didn't she? In the joke about the do my earrings make me look fat?
Yeah, which honestly, right? It's a diabolical question. So
yeah.
I thought it was funny, but there you go. It was the reaction of her husband when the electricity went out and he went, "Oh, thank God."
I kind of feel like I do kind of feel like there's going to be more about who's the guy, the head sword guy. We spoke about him earlier.
Hayward, director.
I think there's going to be. I think he knows more than he's letting on as well.
Yes. In fact, did you feel? When Wanda made them all turn the guns onto him? Did that? I don't know why. For me, that really reminded me of the first X-Men when Magneto turns everybody's gun on them, all the SWAT teams and everything. I don't know whether it just felt like that to me, but there you go. That's just so we have another question here. Oh God, we've really got into something now. So Lennon is asking, who is your favorite Netflix character? Mine is Punisher, played by John Berthenol. He was perfect as the Punisher, in my opinion. I'd love to see him introduced into the MCU, maybe in Deadpool.
I do think he would be a great foil for Deadpool's like constant bouncing around and inanity and all that. But my favorite Netflix is actually Daredevil. Yeah,
and there's still some sort of ambiguity as to whether those Netflix shows are indeed proper within the MCU, right?
But are we not going to see? I mean, this is a rumor at this stage, I think. But are we not seeing Daredevil in Spider-Man 3?
Oh, are we? That would be what played by Charlie. Is it Charlie Cox?
That's something I've read. It's something I've read.
Oh wow, that would be cool. I really enjoyed Jessica Jones.
Oh, okay.
I did like Jessica Jones too, especially because she like actually has closure, right? And then the series continues on. But there's something about this guilt-racked, I don't know, he's like so imperfect and always trying to be better with Deadpool. I think I just really, I don't know how to say this. I like put myself in a corner like, oh, I really enjoy seeing somebody suffer, but that's not that's not what I'm saying. I think Charlie Cox does a great job with it, and I think the storytelling's interesting. I like all the other characters in the show.
Yeah, no, I agreed. I thought the Dead. I'll be honest, I've not actually seen, would you believe, the Punisher show, which I'm sure will be, definitely my sort of thing. But I've not actually, invested the time to sit and watch that yet. So I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen Luke Cage. I think those were the only ones of the Netflix Marvel shows that I didn't catch. But the second part of that question, I mean, do we really think? I mean, of course, it's possible now, but do you think they'd put someone as bonkers as Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool into the mix, into the MCU mix?
I'm not sure how they would do that because he's so rated R. But
yes,
But I think a lot of people would be happy to see him involved.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's actually, poor Lake has just come back. Keith, sorry I joined late, but you may have covered this. Last week you mentioned about Rambo's clothing that didn't change when she got kicked out, but it played an important part in this story. Yes, we did talk briefly about the bulletproof bell bottoms. Yeah. You're right. I mean, it was kind of a key fact that that came out in this week's episode. So yeah. Anything else? I'm conscious we are kind of feature length here. So hold on, there's another comment. I guess while people are still putting comments, we keep going. So Lennon Paul's put, Kevin Feige did not confirm that there is a Deadpool 3 rated R in the MCU.
He did.
Oh, sorry, did confirm. Sorry. There you go. Lex Dixia rules KO. Yeah. Did confirm that there is a Deadpool 3 rated R in the MCU not too long ago. So there you go. We might well get that then. If Kevin Feige said it, then we're probably going to get it, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like yes, about right.
Because he's the orchestrator. And doing a very good job too, I have to say.
Yeah.
In terms of management, we've talked a lot about certain franchises not being well managed right at the top, but I think that nobody can deny, even though there's lots of creative people involved in all of these shows and movies, but nobody can deny that it has been very well managed from the top, from somebody who's clearly very passionate about the source material, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, have you guys got anything else to add before we sort of?
To be honest, not really. Other than how cool the name is, Captain Rambo.
Absolutely.
It struck me while I was watching it. It's like you'd want to be Captain Rambo, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's a cool name for sure.
What a great note to end on. Sorry about that.
No, there you go. Well, listen, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in on this. We really do appreciate it. If you want to see more of our work, if you go on all good podcast apps and put in LSWOT cast, so LSWOT cast, as I like to say, you'll find podcasts covering Star Trek, Star Wars, and other sci-fi properties, as well as previous episodes on WandaVision. So please check that out and spread the word. Please also join us next Sunday. We're going to be going out at 7:30 p.m. UK time every Sunday, where we'll be covering each episode of this show up until the conclusion. Also, next week, I will give details as to the competition that we're going to run for some giveaways, for some free stuff. So please do join us on that. And if you want to get in touch with the show, obviously you can put comments below on this stream. Please do obviously like and subscribe as well, or you can email us at lswotcast@gmail.com. You can email us directly. So Pete, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter at Too Many E's, TOOMANYEES. Thank you.
And Barbara, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter as B McMealy, BMCMELE, or on Instagram at Gatherings Floral Design.
And Ryan?
Yes, I'm on Twitter. You can find me at Artist Holloway. Or you can visit my website, ryanholloway.net, and you can contact me through there if that's your jam as well.
Sure, and you can find more of my work. I've got a YouTube channel called British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name, where there's some short films that I've made that they're up there. Any feedback welcomed, to be fair. And if you're into physical media, Blu-ray, 4K, that kind of thing, I also have another YouTube channel called Home Media Minefield. In fact, the one that you're watching this live stream through. So please check out more of the videos on that. Would you believe we've had one other comment or question come in? So Lennon has asked, who do you think is the engineer in WandaVision? I don't think it's Reed Richards. Is somebody like the Fantastic Four would be introduced so quietly with a text message. Yeah, which is a fair point.
Yeah,
any thoughts?
There was another comic book. So the Captain Marvel turns into kind of a whole phalanx of superheroes, and one of them is Blue Marvel, who is an aerospace engineer, and in the comics is also a Black character. So I actually think it would be really neat to see, you know, a more representation in the MCU.
Yep, no, that makes sense, and agreed. So anyway, listen, everyone, we thank you for your time, and we will see you next time on
Let's see what's out there.
We'll get that right by the end.
Yeah, sorry, I came in way too early. Way too early.
Time for the next movie.
See you guys. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Goodbye.